Enterprise can mean running a business to make money. It can also mean solving problems, including problems such as climate change, racial injustice, or income inequality. That's the goal for high school students in the Youth Impact Lab, a collaboration between Babson College and the nonprofit in Roxbury, The Base. To tell us about the program are the executive director of the Lewis Institute and Babson Social Innovation Lab, Cheryl Yaffe Kiser, and a Base alumnus and co-facilitator with the lab, Sean Webster. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Cheryl because explain what the lab is and just this idea of putting together two things we don't think are really mutually embracing here, you know, business and social change. How do you make that work?
It's the only way to make business work today is to absolutely create economic and social value together. So at the Lewis Institute, that's actually our belief system, that whether you're in an enterprise, whether you're in government, whether you're starting a business, whether you're in a not-for-profit, if you're not creating economic and social value simultaneously, then you're leaving a lot on the table. So we really do believe that with the entrepreneurial mindset, we can solve problems. And frankly, the biggest challenges the world has today is more around solving big problems, like the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and so having a mindset to be able to navigate that and solve them is one of the most important things we could do for young people and for older people.
Sean, you first got involved with the Base growing up in Roxbury, 10-year-old kid, I think, or at least 10 years ago.
That's right, yeah.
You were into baseball, but things changed both for you and the Base, so tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Came through the program, obviously. Been part of the Base since I was 10, as you mentioned, and going through the Base and coming back after college really provided me the opportunity to pay it forward and really work with some of the student athletes. And my focus really now has been to kind of shift their mindset around baseball. And obviously, you know, we all want to grow up and play professionally, but how can we get kids to think from an earlier age about the other opportunities that there may be available to them and kind of explore other aspects of who they are, right? So with this entrepreneurial program, I think that it's going to be a really good opportunity for kids to identify problems in their communities and think creatively, and more importantly, have the confidence and the mentorship around them to have these ideas become something that's actually real.
Cheryl, what does that mean exactly, the entrepreneurial mindset?
Well, I think you started out, we talked about enterprise. I think at Babson, the most important thing, which probably people don't realize, is that at Babson, the way we think of entrepreneurship is not as just an outcome, like a startup or a new venture. For Babson, it's a mindset, it's a habit, it's an intelligence, it's a way one thinks and acts in the world, and anybody can do it. And I think to Sean's point is that when students, athletes come to the Base, not all of them, and probably very few of them, are going to be professional athletes, but we're trying to create a pathway for them. And so I like to think of the entrepreneurial mindset is not being defined by your current circumstances, but creating a better future. And so it's about creativity. If you look at what entrepreneurship is, it's the creative process on steroids. And I think that for us at Babson and the Base, because I also sit on the board of the Base, to be able to put this mindset and this incredible set of tools in everyone's hands to almost democratize entrepreneurship is really the most important thing we can do for our communities in terms of solving problems and starting things.
Sean, how would you describe what you're doing with the young people in the lab exactly?
Yeah, so what we're doing in the lab is really the first step is working with these kids to brainstorm around what they see as the most pressing issues in their communities and in their lives today, and then thinking about how we can creatively create a framework for them to implement this business idea and then present it and finally tell their story so that people can understand what they're saying, and then we can provide them with the resources and the connections to actually make it happen.
Right. Cheryl, when students are trying to look at a particular problem, how do they get focused on this exactly? I mean, is there some sort of learning exercise involved?
Yeah, so the first thing we always start with, and we always say to our entrepreneurs, what's the most important thing of being an entrepreneur? It doesn't matter who you are. And it's desire to see something happen, to either create something or change something. So we're going to start first with the desire of the kids. What are in their community? We're going to map it and say, what in your community would you like to fix? Is broken? Isn't there? We teach them how to identify opportunities, whether they're already existing and need change, or whether they're not even there at all. So it's going to start with the kids themselves, and then we're going to have them go in the community and map the community around the things they want to see changed. When they come back, we'll brainstorm, we'll start to ideate, we'll engage with the partners in the community that we need to engage with, and we'll start the process so that after that, we'll teach them how do you prototype, how do you actually take it from an idea and a desire to something physical. And prototyping, as you know, is all it is a fancy word for trying out a bunch of things to so that you can explain to people what you're trying to do. So having lots of prototypes to then come up with one thing that they will then build a business or an initiative around, co-created in the community with the people that they're going to be working with.
Cheryl, of course, this sounds pretty advanced maybe for some young people growing up in the neighborhoods, but if you wind back a bit to the earlier years when you first got involved with the base, what drove you to do that? What was going on in your life that made you want to choose that?
To be involved with the base, it was really, you know, when I finished college, I came home and, you know, you're looking for a family, you're looking for people that you feel comfortable with and that can help you to kind of figure out that next step in, you know, your professional career. So when I came home from school, was really the opportunity to share my experiences that I had in college, both on and off the field, with young people and help them to think through, you know, think even deeper about their situations and where they could take it. So it was really just about paying it forward. I recognize in my position as someone that has you know, the mentors and the leaders and the people around me, it's my responsibility to pay that forward and you know, extend my arm to someone else that may need that connection, may need that help.
Well, what does it mean? Because you're talking about maybe young people growing up in Boston. They haven't had much experience talking to people like you who come from their background. They don't see people like that, at least not many of them in colleges. What about the difference that makes for them, you think?
Oh, well, I think what it instills in these young kids is the confidence from an early start to know that their ideas aren't crazy, they're not irrational, and if we're really going to be intentional about changing the world and changing our communities, we have to be innovative, we have to be bold, we have to talk about things that we normally wouldn't talk about. And I think when you look at kids from urban communities and people from tougher situations, we have a hustler spirit regardless, whether it's a side hustle or whether it's working 2 or 3 jobs. We're always thinking about how we can, you know, supplement our income and think of new ideas to create a better way for ourselves. So to be able to have this program give kids the framework and actually, you know, give them the confidence and a pathway to be able to feel good about what they're doing, I think is going to completely change the game.
This is Being in the News here. We're talking with Cheryl Yaffe Kiser from the Babson Innovation Lab and Sean Webster from the Babson Youth Impact Lab. Cheryl, you know, there was that hustle factor that Sean talked about, but I guess one of the other things you do with this lab is you help young people identify personal assets. Like a lot of kids might come into this lab, they think they don't have assets. So what kind of things could you be talking about there?
Well, I was going to say, I love what Sean is saying because one of the things we're doing is we're not bringing a mindset to these students that they don't already have. These student athletes are, if you look at what the entrepreneurial mindset does, is it navigates uncertainty. Well, Sean knows, and a lot of people who come to the base navigate uncertainty every day of their life. And to Sean's point, we're really trying to codify and put a method around how do you actually create. You're already doing it. If you're actually an athlete, you are entrepreneurial. You have a set of skills to be able to play the game, but once you're in the game and the game starts, anything can happen, and how you react is a lot of how an entrepreneur reacts in uncertainty. There's a lot that goes on that doesn't actually, that we don't see those steps. And I think what's really powerful about why the base is it has an underlying premise of excellence and holding the highest expectations. So when Sean comes back and shares what he's doing as a near peer to the students there, he's holding the highest opportunities and vision for them in a very optimistic way. It's a very optimistic framework.
Sean, more recently, you've gone on to get involved in other things, real estate, political campaigns, drones. And some viewers might be saying, what's the connection between that?
I think that's a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit in myself. And, you know, I think as young people, we need to have the opportunity to figure out what it is that we're most passionate about. And that's what I've been able to explore over the past few years. But now moving into a space where I kind of have figured out that my passion is community. My passion is taking an asset-based approach in the way that we're working with the people that we do have and the resources at our disposal to bring value to our community. I really realized that, you know, entrepreneurship is that common thread in all of it, right? And to be able to take what we're going to learn from this program and even implement it into what I'm doing, it's going to be a learning experience in itself for me. Not only the skills and the knowledge, but also to be able to work with the kids and to see what makes them tick, what they like, what they don't like, to be able to increase my interpersonal relations with younger people. Because younger people today are more creative. They have a smaller attention span in some cases. You know, there's so much information and so many different things that are going on. I think that it's really interesting when you talk to young people and you see what it is that they do care about and how they're using social media or how they're using their platforms to be able to bring attention to things that are very important or maybe not so important. So how do we use this to instill principle and morals and ethics so that we can kind of shift what kids are using to convey the right messages, you know?
Cheryl, if there are young people listening who want to sign up for this or at least explore it, what should they be able to do?
Well, they should definitely go to the BASE website, just the BASE website, and it will be on the website. It will probably be the EPIC curriculum, and that's all they really need to do. And I think that I just wanted to add one thing that Sean said, and that is that it actually, whether you go through the whole program or not, the different modules are terrific. One's on storytelling. How do you get to your why? How do you figure out what you care about? And then once you do, what's the first thing that you do? How do you engage other people around what you want to do? It's a very simple process that already they're doing some aspect of their life, but we're actually creating it around solving problems in the community so that they actually can see from beginning to end that they started something, they engaged people, they created something, it's theirs, it's uniquely to them, and they'll have an outcome at the end of it. And we'll also reframe for them, what does it mean to fail? Failure is a really big deal for people, and we actually help them reframe what is failure. And because for us and for all entrepreneurs, failure is learning. That's all it really is. It's like getting you to your next.
And Sean, if people want some more information, I guess, about the BASE, they can check that out too?
Yeah, absolutely, thebase.org. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, a lot of really good things that are going on at the BASE. So I would encourage you to get added to the email list and just stay in the loop.
Thank you both very much, Sean Webster and Cheryl Yaffe Kiser. We'll have more news in just a moment.